Today let's begin by looking at this timeline of world religions. So yesterday obviously the question towards the end was when I spoke about 3rd to 7th century, right? So that is the time where we see that Zoroastrianism was at its height. Okay, but so then I said let's have a look at this timeline to see where exactly does these some religions that we have seen begin. So first we have seen was Buddhism, right? So as you can see, roughly around somewhere between 500 BC and this thing, right? AD. Then you have Mahayana Buddhism beginning a little bit early. Then you have Vajrayana. Then you also have Zen. Then Nikrian, etc. Then you have Vedic Brahmanism right much before 2000 BC, and then slowly, then in a way merging into Hinduism. Zoroastrianism comes somewhere here in this region, somewhere around just after 1000 BC, like. Then you also have Jainism beginning somewhere here, and then also Islam coming in later. Also you see Judaism also having much early roots. Then you have Christianity here coming as in from it, then breaking also of the Orthodox Church happening there. And then you also see how the various, with the Reformation movement, you have all the other sects coming in. Okay, and as we know, Sikhism is quite a recent one in that sense compared to the others that we have already seen. So today let's take a look at what was the role of the prophet Zoroaster. Okay, so he is in a way the one who founded Zoroastrianism. And when we look at the monotheistic religions, okay, we see that it is one of the world's oldest. Okay, one among the many, one of the oldest when it comes to the monotheistic religions. So therefore for him, his vision was basically centered on the worship of who? Name? Ahura Mazda. And then yesterday we looked at some of the aspects that we find in Zoroastrianism, right? So what were some of them? Prominent ones? Okay, so we have this dualism of good versus evil. Now, do we have figures also, kind of embodiments of good and evil? Okay, who is the ultimate good? Ahura Mazda, that is God, is ultimate good. Okay, and then you also have Ahura Mazda, who is the spirit of evil. Or as we saw yesterday, we can compare it to God and Satan in Christianity. Yeah, so then you also have other concepts, heaven and hell. Yeah. Now we also see that Zoroastrianism also influenced other religions, including Judaism, which in a way we also have elements from there. Now let's take a look at the role of Zoroaster. So he claimed that he received divine revelation. Okay, now what do we understand by divine revelation? So, God speaking one thing, but we can say maybe God communicating, okay, either through direct contact or also through some other sources. So, in a way, revealing or showing off of the divine. So, here we see that he received a direct revelation from Ahura Mazda, the ultimate good, or also the wise Lord. Here he is said to have spoken to God face to face. And therefore he believed that he was chosen to communicate the divine truth. Now, what is the role of a prophet? Okay, so let's see here, role of prophet. So one you said is proclaim the message, let's say. Then what else role does the prophet also have? Okay, confrontation is there. Okay, signs, teach. Okay. Now, when you look at all this, okay, can you find something that is in a way collective? So, something that puts all these things together, whether it comes to proclamation, whether it comes to confrontation, whether it comes to doing signs or teaching, giving a message, can we put these under one category? Okay, let's put it in another way. Now we have the class representative, right? Okay, so what is the role of the class representative? Austin, what is your role? Okay, so you act as a mediator or a bridge. So therefore we see that here also he realized that his role was in a way to establish a link between divine and humanity. And by doing this, to guide the people in worshipping one true God. Now, let's take a look at his life as such. Okay, so we have seen how, in a way, he began, he had this divine revelation. In a way, he felt he was chosen to communicate because he had a face to face interaction with God. Now, let's take a look at his life. So, scholars have, in a way, debated as to what is the exact time and exact place of Zoroaster's life. So, there are different accounts. But a kind of a general agreement among them is that he began his mission around 588 BCE. So now this date again comes from the Zoroastrian tradition, which says that his revelation began 258 years before Alexander. Now, who is Alexander? Alexander the Great. Okay, so here, in a way, this reference is done to the great conquest of Persia in 330 BCE. So we see that this conquest in a way ended the first Persian Empire, and it also marked the death of the Achaemenid king Darius the III. Okay, so therefore, in a way, they have tried to link his revelation to Alexander to, in a way, situate himself or to situate him in the Persian context. Now, he is said to have lived for 77 years. And therefore, by knowing this, his date of birth can be situated to somewhere around 628 BCE and death to somewhere around 551 BCE. So we see that he spent quite a considerable time also in mission, had in a way a lasting impact, as we can see. Now, when you look at his life, what we know is derived from his, that are the Gathas. Now, these are part of the sacred text which are called as the Avesta. So, these are the Zoroastrian sacred text. It is said that in his time, he faced rejection to a ruler who would accept his religious ideas. So therefore, he had to go to a place where the ruler over there would be tolerant, or the ruler there would be accepting his ideas about religion, about this new concept of believing that there is only one God, one true God. Now, it is said that he found refuge with a prince named Vishtapspa. So, and he becomes now his protector and patron. In a way, he protects him and also, in a way, helps him in his mission. So under his rule, under the rule of this Prince Vishtaspa, we see that Zoroaster now is able to establish his religion and slowly he is able to gain followers. So and therefore when we look at most of these prophets, most of these founders, one thing is very evident is the early struggle that they have. Okay, when people not accepting the ideas, people thinking that he's different, he's therefore facing rejection, going away, and then most importantly gaining followers, because you need to take the religion forward. Now, what do the sacred texts have to say about him? So, first and foremost, we see that the sacred scriptures, as we have seen, what are they called? So, Avesta is the sacred scriptures. The hymns are part of the sacred text. So, hymns are called gathas, but they are part of the, you can compare it to the Psalms that we have in the Bible. So, you have the Bible as a whole, but then you have Psalms over there. Now, it is said that over time, okay, much of this is lost. And as a result, we see that, earlier also things when it was recorded and all, because of war, because of conquest, certain things also would have been lost here and there. So whatever is remaining now is important to understand Zoroaster's teachings. So now this Avesta is divided into three main sections. So you have Yasna, which is the liturgical text. Now this includes, in a way, the important rituals when it comes to Zoroastrian worship. So kind of the rubrics we would find in our context. Okay, so Yasna is the liturgical text which basically deals with the important rituals. Then you have Yash, or also as we have called them as Gathas, which refer to the hymns or praises that are directed to spiritual beings. Okay, that is to angels and others. So as we will go ahead, we will see that though Zoroaster in a way tries to break away from polytheism, his followers slowly begin to absorb some other polytheistic elements also. Okay, so we see that therefore you have kind of these hymns, praises, which are also directed to spiritual beings or other spiritual deities. And then you have the Videvdat, okay, which in a way gives laws for ritual purity. So the main understanding for this ritual purity is that you need to avoid defilement. So it's like this. You are constantly in this battle between good and evil. So the evil one or the evil spirit is constantly trying to, in a way, take you away from the good. And therefore, for purifying yourself or for participating in any ritual, you need to purify yourself, and thus, in a way, you need to confront the evil that is there. And therefore, prevent yourself from being, in a way, defiled or corrupted. Written in first person and attributed to Zoroaster himself. So in a way, these gathas, as we have seen, become a kind of a primary source of what he preached, of what he proclaimed, and also it gives us insight into his philosophical vision and also religious vision. Okay, so therefore these are kind of the important text or important kind of scriptures that important sources that we have, which are part of the Avesta, that are the sacred scriptures. So now what can we consider as one of the most important achievement of Zoroaster? From what we have seen, what would you consider as one of the most important achievement? Okay, directly speaking to God, good. Any? Okay, again, so monotheism would imply breaking away from polytheism. Okay, so now in those days you had something called as the pantheon, right? Any idea what does a pantheon mean? So you basically had a kind of a place where you have worship of various deities that are happening. Okay, so for example, when some of y'all go to Rome for your theology studies or some other studies, you will see the pantheon over there. Okay, where you have the various kind of altars for the different deities there, where deities were worshipped. So we see that one of the most important achievements is rejection of this polytheistic pantheon or polytheistic worship. Or in other words, we can say that it was a rejection of the polytheistic tradition of Iranian gods. So what and who does he promote? He promotes Ahura Mazda as creator of all that is good, as one supreme deity. And this monotheistic vision was in a way kind of a separation from the polytheistic tradition that was there during their time, where multiple gods were commonly worshipped. So now Zoroaster, he calls people to worship the one true God and also follow principles of truth and righteousness. So, as I said earlier, after the death of Zoroaster, many of these ancient Iranian gods, okay, so which were previously eliminated, or in the sense which Zoroaster did not consider, these enter the Zoroastrian tradition, okay, and these are then called uh, secondary spiritual beings or the worshipful ones. Okay, so as we saw previously when we came to the Yash, these were the hymns that are directed to the spiritual beings. So here we refer to these that entered after the death of Zoroaster. Now, even though these secondary spiritual beings, okay, so we have the re-entry of the ancient Iranian gods. So here we see that even though they enter, they do not in a way challenge the supremacy of Ahura Mazda. And at the same time, these are in a way viewed now as spiritual entities. What we would call as angels. And these are said to have assisted in helping against the cosmic battle between good and evil. Okay, so these angels in a way help the person to overcome these challenges. Now, when we speak about dualism, what is the main focus or main aspect of dualism in Zoroastrianism? Good and evil. So, therefore, here we have the conflict between Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu. One is the ultimate good, and here you have the spirit of evil or the evil spirit that we can consider it, or the force of evil. So now monotheism of Zoroaster in a way focused, okay, on the ultimate supremacy of Ahura Mazda. So though the ultimate good was the focus, he also acknowledged the existence of evil as real plus independent. And therefore we see that the role of humanity is to participate or take part in this cosmic battle through free will. Then we also see that as time moves on, Zoroastrianism begins to evolve. Okay, so when it comes to dualism and monotheism, so you have in a way after his death, depending on the historical and political situation, Zoroastrianism begins to evolve or undergo certain changes. Now, when Zoroastrianism becomes official faith of the Persian Empire, under the Sasanian dynasty. So this we are talking about roughly around 221 to 651 CE. Okay. So two interpretations of Zoroastrianism come. So this first one is what we have already seen, that is kind of the good versus evil, and this is both independent and co-eternal. That means this cosmic battle is an ongoing battle between good and evil. Now another important kind of what we call as interpretation was of this monotheistic Zoroastrianism, which just disclaimer is a bit different from the original concept of Zoroaster. Okay, so what is it? It is basically that, so this was more tentative. Okay, so it was just a kind of a interpretation held by a few, which basically said that Zurvan, or infinite time, this was the origin of good and evil. And therefore, what does this mean? This means that both Ahura Mazda as well as Angra Mainyu are products of this force. Okay, so this was one interpretation. So now we see that this interpretation does not fully align with his teachings. Okay, not fully in accordance with Zoroaster's original teachings. But this, in a way, as we have seen, came because of the historical and political situation. So the dualist view we see gives bit more independence to evil, while this monotheistic view tries to give more stress on the force of infinite time. Rather than focusing solely on Ahura Mazda, the focus is on this cosmic force of infinite time. Okay, so before we wind up for today, let's take a look at some of the key teachings of Zoroaster. Okay, so at the heart of his teachings, for him, Ahura Mazda was a supreme all knowing as well as benevolent God. So here we have some of his central teachings or his doctrine. First is Asha, okay, not Sister Asha, but Asha, which means truth and order. Okay, so here he basically thought that the universe is governed by this whole principle of truth, righteousness, and cosmic order. So in a way, in the universe, there is a kind of a cosmic order, and therefore truth and righteousness are part of this cosmic order. So therefore, we must align with the truth, align with righteousness. And how can we do this? How can people align with the truth? By living moral lives. Okay, so dualism we have already seen. Can anyone tell me what this means? Okay, that means battle between. Okay, and what is another important aspect of it? Okay, but in this battle, we have something, right? What is it that we have? Ultimately, good will win, yes, true. But when it comes to, okay, let's put it in other words. When it comes to our choices, what do we have? Free will, okay? So here also in this battle, you are not compelled to choose good or compelled to choose evil. You have a free will. But you are expected to choose the good. Okay, and in this way participate in the fight against evil. Next is ethical living. So that means a life of good thoughts, words, and deeds. And therefore this will mean kind of being truthful, being charitable, and also respecting all living beings. Okay, so basically not only good in your words but also good in deeds. Judgment and afterlife. This I'm sure we are all familiar with, right? So in short, what can we say? So who is going to judge, or on based on what is this judgment happening? Based on action. Okay, so actions in a way will determine this judgment. So those who have lived with accordance with the truth, they will be rewarded in the afterlife. Those who follow evil will be punished. Same as the concept of heaven and hell that we have. Okay, and therefore we see that this whole concept of judgment and afterlife also influenced Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Okay, so this concept has its root in Zoroastrianism. And finally, what we have is, as we saw yesterday, that there is a very optimistic stance. That means ultimately who will win? Good. Okay, so in the end, good always wins. And ultimately, Ahura Mazda is the ultimate savior, and he brings about the end of the cosmic struggle, and this results in a perfected world. Okay, so let's end with this.